The most dangerous part of the Star Wars galaxy isn't the wars. It's the silence that follows when nobody notices you exist. You arrive expecting excitement, maybe even destiny, but instead, you find confusion, closed systems, strangers who watch you too carefully, and rules you don't understand. Every small mistake pushes you further outside the invisible boundaries that keep others safe. And long before anything dramatic happens, you realize something far more unsettling. Survival here depends on belonging, and you don't belong at all. Before we uncover what history tried to hide, subscribe to Unseen Evidence, because some truths were never meant to be found, and tell me where you're watching this from. I'm curious to know. Let's continue. Most people imagine the galaxy far, far away, as a place filled with adventure, glowing blades, heroic pilots, and daring escapes that always end with victory. But that version of the galaxy exists only in stories told about the few who survived long enough to become legends. And if you were placed there without warning, without preparation, without the invisible protections that follow heroes through their journeys, you would quickly discover that survival is not about bravery or excitement, but about understanding systems so vast and complex that they barely notice your existence. Because the galaxy is not one unified civilization, but a patchwork of worlds layered with history, politics, cultural tension, and invisible hierarchies that dictate who belongs and who does not. And the moment you arrive, you would feel the weight of a scale pressing down on you as starships move overhead with indifferent precision, and crowds flow around you like currents in a river that has been running long before you stepped into it. And the first realization would come quietly when you attempt something simple, like speaking to a stranger, or finding food and notice that nothing works the way you expect. That language alone does not create understanding, because every phrase carries context shaped by cultures you have never lived inside. Every gesture means something slightly different, and every misunderstanding closes doors you didn't even realize were open moments before. And you begin to understand that belonging in this galaxy is not automatic, but earned slowly through reputation, identity, and connection, all things you lack entirely. And without identification, you cannot access transportation, networks, or secure reliable shelter, or even navigate official systems designed to maintain order. Because technology here assumes familiarity and trust, doors respond to credentials you do not possess, systems request codes you cannot provide, and droids move through their routines without noticing you as anything more than an anomaly to avoid rather than assist, and you begin to feel the subtle isolation that comes from existing outside a network that connects everyone else, an invisible barrier that prevents you from fully participating in the world around you. And as hours pass, you notice how quickly locals recognize you as someone who does not belong, not through hostility but through distance. Their conversations shortening, their eyes shifting away slightly too quickly, because in a galaxy where survival depends on reading subtle signals, you are broadcasting uncertainty without realizing it, and uncertainty attracts attention from people who see opportunity in outsiders, and maybe someone offers help, a place to stay, or a ride somewhere safer. And the decision becomes a quiet calculation between trust and caution, because kindness exists here, but so does manipulation, and without experience, you cannot distinguish between them. And even if you choose wisely, you remain aware that you are navigating a world where power structures shift constantly, where governments rise and fall, where local authorities enforce rules shaped by alliances you cannot see, where crime syndicates operate alongside legitimate institutions and sometimes overlap with them in ways that blur the difference entirely. And you might assume that danger would arrive dramatically with loud confrontations or obvious threats, but more often, it appears as confusion, as subtle pressure, as realizing you have wandered into a territory controlled by people whose expectations you do not understand, and nothing about the environment feels designed for your comfort because planets vary wildly in climate, culture, and technological dependency. From desert settlements where resources are scarce to crowded urban worlds, where navigation itself requires experience, and even something as simple as weather carries unfamiliar risks because ecosystems evolved alongside species adapted to them, not alongside you. And as the day progresses, you feel a growing mental exhaustion, Not from physical strain, but from constant vigilance, from the need to interpret every interaction carefully, from the knowledge that one small misunderstanding could escalate into consequences you cannot predict, and somewhere beyond your awareness, forces move that shape events in ways you cannot perceive, individuals connected to the force, sensing shifts in energy that ripple through society, decisions made by distant leaders affecting entire regions overnight, conflicts brewing beneath the surface long before they appear publicly, and you exist within these currents without understanding their direction, reacting instead of anticipating. And slowly the romantic idea of adventure dissolves into a quieter reality where survival is less about dramatic heroics and more about endurance, patience, and adaptation. And you begin to understand why the stories you grew up with focus only on extraordinary individuals, because ordinary survival here is rarely cinematic. It is a series of small choices made under pressure, moments of waiting, uncertainty about whether you are moving toward safety or deeper into risk. And as the 24th hour approaches, you realize that the true challenge was never combat or physical danger, but the complexity of a galaxy that does not pause for newcomers, a society that assumes knowledge you do not have and punishes hesitation through missed opportunities and growing isolation. And eventually, one decision made with incomplete understanding could place you somewhere you cannot easily leave, not through dramatic events, but through the quiet accumulation of disadvantages that build until escape becomes unlikely, and your story would end not with spectacle, but with anonymity, another traveler, swallowed by the vastness of a living galaxy that continues forward without noticing. And perhaps, that is the hidden truth behind every legendary tale, that for every hero who survives, there are countless ordinary individuals navigating invisible struggles just to make it through another day. And you would not fail because you lacked courage, but because you entered a world already in motion, a world whose rules were written long before your arrival, a world that rewards belonging and understanding above all else. And without those things, even 24 hours could feel impossibly long in a galaxy that was never designed for you.